Ubisoft. Yes, it is time to talk about Yves Guillemot and his merry millions of workers that get thrown into open world games. So, Ubisoft, they've had an interesting rap. Open worlds that are all the same, ultimate editions that keep on generating controversy, years of delays, lots of trend chasing, Ghost Recon Breakpoint, and a lot of unhappy employees. It has been rough in terms of the headlines for them, but we do kind of know that their core games can still pull in numbers. Like Rainbow Six Siege, it actually recently hit all-time player highs in Steam. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, at the end of the day, sold absolute just gangbusters and kept on making revenue afterwards through all of its DLCs and expansions. So, going into the Summer Games Fest, it was an interesting situation. People were very much primed for drama. I mean, again, those really expensive, higher editions, and just the general groan that happens at Ubisoft. Yet afterwards, I've seen a lot of people talk about true stealth in Assassin's Creed. I've seen a lot of people say, actually, Assassin's Creed Mirage had really good stealth, and I'm seeing people kind of laugh at Star Wars Outlaws apparently doing what Starfield got slammed for not doing, flying to a planet without a loading screen. Allegedly. And something very much not a large open world game, a new entry to the Anno franchise. You see, the Industrial Revolution set 1800 was basically fantastic. It's still much played this time though. The next Anno game is set in Rome. That means that I'm screwed, and to insulate us from the financial impact of me playing Anno Pax Romana, here's today's sponsor, who exists to help take the sting out of the price of things these days, because let's be real, it is pretty wild. Now, the basics, gas, food, things that you buy all the time are amazing with Upside. Upside's today's sponsor, and you can add them to your routine. Upside lets you earn cash back on your daily purchases, and the way it works is really simple. You just claim the offer, then you buy whatever you're going to be buying, and you get the cash back. You get actual money, by the way, not points or any other faff. Their top users are actually earning back up to $300 a month, and they work with over 85,000 gas stations, grocery stores, and restaurants on their app. 85k is a lot, but they do make it easy. All you do is enter your zip code, and you can just see the map light up with different places. I mean, look, if you're going to be filling up your car, why not fill it up and get some cash back? Their users are earning $1 million a week in cash back, and if you join with my link, you'll get an extra 25 cents back per gallon of gas for your first tank. Now, the app is free, and you only get the better deal with my code Bellular or by scanning the QR code. Once you're there, you'll also find a handy calculator to basically see how much you can save by adding Upside to your shopping routine. So, hope you find them useful. With that said, let's hop into the video. The mood going into Ubisoft Forward. Yes, there have been dramas, the very pricey pre-orders for the Ultimate Edition, sort of thing that could maybe make business sense, but very much leaves just a sour taste in the mouth. That's all played into the malaise of dissatisfaction that has been floating around Ubisoft for years. And they're a strange bunch because in some ways they have never been in a truly awful position, and that's because their ass has been saved by back catalogue sales and half dozen live services like, say, For Honor, Siege, and Brawlhalla that just keep on going. And the case of Siege have ended up quite amazingly thriving. But of course, Ubisoft is a company of two parts, and the genre they codified, the open world exploration game, is the thing they've been really screwing up lately. We've had the years of large delays, we have had disasters like Skull and Bones, the last mainline Assassin's Creed was released 4 years ago, and thinking about a big core Ubisoft open world game, Far Cry 6 didn't set the world alight. I mean, it had good bits, but it was just more Far Cry. They kept on kind of doing just more of the same, and people have just got tired of the format. And even with Avatar, maybe it set the world alight so little that it's actually been dropped of its Ubisoft Plus exclusivity within 6 months of release. So you'll be able to get it in Steam, but you'll probably still have to log into it via bullshit. But other things have went okay for them. Mirage sold well, and Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown was actually critically well received. It's coming out in Steam, actually. It's a really good game. Again, shame about needing to log into Ubisoft and Steam. But of course, those things, Mirage, Prince of Persia, those aren't big Ubisoft games that have the budget that actually excites people in the way that Watch Dogs did during its not particularly truthful initial reveal. So let's talk about them then. Assassin's Creed Shadows. The gameplay deep dive was kind of fascinating. It really looks like they're trying to blend the past and future of what an Ubisoft open world is. So the first thing is, they have two protagonists, but it's not like you just play as Cassandra or forgotten his name, dude. But they're very similar. In this case, it's actually one representing the combat style of a modern role-playing game, and the other, well, a classic Assassin's Creed stealth situation. So Yasuke melee combat is basically looking at other games. It's got like the blocking, parrying, dodging. I don't know, maybe a few people looked at For Honor, got scared of how complicated and hard that game is to play and thought, oh, well, we'll do a version people can actually play. But you can very much see the inspiration from other katana-based video games that are out there. And seemingly also we're getting that without the overarching faff of the RPG systems of modern Assassin's Creed games. That definitely appeals to me as a player. I mean, goddamn, I play World of Warcraft. That is enough of that stuff. Now, then, for the other character, going back to cover, stealth mechanics, hiding underwater, being able to go into prone through the bushes, having the cover system so you can, like lean against the wall, peek out the other side. Basically stuff with, say, planning infiltrations. Actually having that Assassin's Creed fantasy being an Assassin's Creed. And that's not been there for a long time, because what happened with Assassin's Creed is it slowly turned into a historical RPG franchise. The assassin bit kind of went away. Whereas here, I suppose they're trying to have their cake and eat it by saying, hey, here's samurai gameplay fantasy. Maybe if you've been playing the likes of Ghost of Tsushima, or, lots of other games, well, you can get that. And if you really want the sort of Assassin's Creed stealthy assassin stuff, you can go and play the ninja character. And oddly enough, this has also brought up a lot of people saying that with Assassin's Creed Mirage, the bit that they apparently did cook on, though, is the assassination stuff. So that being good in Mirage, that being moved to the ninja gameplay here, getting a physics-based grappling hook, like I gotta say, of the grappling hooks of video games, that did look like a pretty fun grappling hook to me. So from what I could tell going through the footage, it is a synthesis mostly of what Assassin's Creed has offered to date. But if it's just that, it may not work. I mean, Far Cry 6 tried to do that. It then added Giancarlo Esposito. Of course, I mean, Gus, amongst many other things, are terrific at playing villains, and they just called it a day, and Far Cry 6 did not set the world alight. So for Ubisoft, they've, got to synthesize their strengths, have it, be appropriately modernized in terms of gameplay, so that you have an RPG combat system that doesn't feel dated, but they do have to take it one step further. And it seems they've tried to do that in the open world. And I suppose if any group is set up to actually do good stuff in an open world, it should be Ubisoft instead of resting on their laurels. I mean, hell, Ubisoft. Just think of the technology in Assassin's Creed Unity. It's weird. History's actually looked pretty favorably to that game compared to its absolutely god-awful launch. Unity has some outstanding technology that actually the series kind of regressed from afterwards. But we're actually seeing things be nudged forward here. So what we basically have seen is that, yes, the world is big and it's got lots of things to do and it's all very high fidelity, but just a lot of detail. Katanas slicing through the bamboo, charging Yasuke will just break everything, props as he walks through them. But then also things like seasonal changes. The season will impact the weather, and that means your combat could be caught in a rainstorm. When temperature drops, that means that rivers and lakes freeze, and of course that means that some mechanics like hiding underwater and swimming, that those things will no longer work. The day and night cycle comes with a new illumination system that basically, well, it's light-based gameplay, but instead of Sam Fisher shooting out lights, you'll be breaking lanterns and that sort of thing. Which, I mean, hey, if I can do Sam Fisher, but Ninja Sam Fisher, yeah. Although, by the way, where is Sam Fisher? So on paper, there's a hell of a lot of promise. However, massive games like this are made by a lot of people, and that means that sometimes they can be victim to production line sort of design, where, yes, there are quite a lot of tools that they have in their game designer's toolbox. How well will those be implemented? Will they be implemented evenly? How will this actually come out as a full gameplay experience? We are not sure yet. At the very least, though, them saying that this is more of a 30-hour game instead of a very, bloated, 100-hour game, to me, that actually sounds good. I am absolutely a person for quality over quantity. That's one of the reasons why I like Ghost of Tsushima. So it seems that Ubisoft are still selling people a fantasy theme park, that thing where they take some history, but they kind of exaggerate it and put a spin on it. The question is, has this broken the formula enough to actually cut through, and is the fantasy inherently strong enough? And I suppose Japan, popular setting, you've got Ghost of Tsushima back in, the 1100s. Here we're jumping 500 years into the future. Sengoku Jidai, pretty damn popular, period of history, right? So there could be plenty looking good here. But again, it is not out yet, and we will have to see. I would also say it's an Ubisoft game. don't buy it for $70 on launch. Just wait. Just wait! They all end up way cheaper. The amount of RRP $69.99 that I'm seeing cut down to like 27 or 28 quid. That was what I saw with a physical copy of Pandora, the Avatar game. So, yeah, Ubisoft stuff does get discounted. The next game then is Star Wars Outlaws. An interesting one. They did say the first open world Star Wars game, which is certainly a statement to make given the existence of, it's no longer a thing, but obviously Star Wars Galaxies. Anyway, what we've seen is more gameplay, and while for some people they're just kind of like blah, other people are saying, okay, we got some Uncharted stuff. It actually looks like the details, like things are actually done quite well here. Certainly plenty saying that the gameplay looks mechanically solid, but like a little bit uninspired. That said, what I think people want is a big, well-done Star Wars fantasy. Obviously, the Jedi, Fallen Order and Survivor games are giving that to us in the sort of Jedi form. The sort of scoundrel thing, though, well, number one, they've got to differentiate our characters and not have them be too, just default scoundrel, so that absolutely has to happen. But I do like this fantasy being done in a big game like this. And I see people mentioning Uncharted as almost a good thing, and that's because of two games. Star Wars 1313, now that was a bounty hunter game, that was cancelled, and then the one that was being led by Amy Hennig. Now, Amy Hennig, she's had a pretty amazing run in the games industry. Like, I think maybe most known by modern audiences for Uncharted. So the idea that some of those things that, we were so close to getting, but ultimately they just ended up being shit show projects and, they were EA'd to hell. The idea that we're actually getting some of that, to me, is quite nice. But what's funny is what actually gets traction, what things break through. I guess this is almost like, what sound bites in a political debate actually spread. And in this case, one of the spreaders was actually landing a spaceship. And here there are lessons for Bethesda. So here's a tweet from Amir. He says, this is exactly how landing in planets in Starfield should have been. Really wish Bethesda figured out how to do it like this rather than black screens. Star Wars Outlaws looks great. And when we go and we just play his clip, you see, you go down to the planet, you select where you're going to go, and then your ship literally just flies down to that place and you land. Now, the thing is, this is not that different to Starfield on mechanical level. It really isn't, because this is still a menu, right? And it's not even a diegetic one like the one in Starfield where, you see the little waypoint thingies. And it technically has got less functionality than Starfield because you can only land at the mentioned locations. And players actually know that. The bit that matters here is that they're physically seeing their ship go down from outer space. Now, the thing is, them doing that effect here, when you're going to a bespoke location and you have a limited number of locations, that is far easier to do on a technical level. If you want to do what people really would have wanted Starfield to be able to do, well, now you're looking at the sorts of technology that they made for Star Citizen, where on some of its planets, it is incredibly technically impressive. If memory serves, it's Level Cap Gaming who's done quite a few videos there. I mean, obviously, Star Citizen, Lamau, funding, etc. Yes, that stuff's pretty shit, but it does do the whole, you go from in space down to planet. It does do that pretty impressively. But I suppose my point here is, you could spend all of those, millions and millions and millions of dollars actually doing the thing like they do in Star Citizen, or you could just do what they do here, which is you actually don't have that many options. This is a menu, and this is a loading screen without a loading bar. But guess what? It looks right, and it feels right. And that, I think, is why the Starfield stuff didn't really land with audiences as well from Bethesda, because it broke the illusion. Here, you technically have a lot of the same things going on, but the illusion is maintained. That's what matters, and that's one of those little flares, one of those touches that actually sells people on the fantasy of the experience. Those details actually do matter. And then I suppose for the Star Wars fans, well, you're playing as a smuggler, you meet Jabba the Hutt, you're blasting stormtroopers, you're getting involved in space battles that at the very least look technically quite nice. I mean, in both cases, I think these games do look, pretty gorgeous in terms of, graphics and presentation. So, in terms of common threads here then, what's actually going on with Ubisoft? Well, I think Shadows and Outlaw are both being pitched as only 30-hour games for the core of the game, and we're continually having devs basically say that they are actually going for quality, not just player-like hours. Both games have had a lot of devs explaining that yes, these are Ubisoft games, but they don't have Ubisoft towers, which is a funny thing because Outlaws doesn't really need the towers because it's got smaller zone-based design. Shadows does have towers that you navigate like a normal person instead of, you go to a map marker and weird old Assassin's Creed things happen. But the funny thing is with Ubisoft, Far Cry 5 and 6 did not have towers. Avatar Frontiers of Pandora does not have towers. Mirage did, but Mirage pretty much did it as a throwback to Assassin's Creed. And accounting for development timelines and Mirage being a throwback, Ubisoft actually hasn't mandated map towers as a mechanic for years. And I think that is kind of interesting, and it actually takes us to Paris. Remember, they had this group in Paris who were basically doing a lot of standardization, how a lot of things changed with that group, and how Ubisoft delayed loads of their biggest games by multiple years? Well, it makes me think that some of those rules have perhaps changed. Now, there are other good things coming from Ubisoft. I mean, the thing that's actually of interest to me is Anno. So the most recent Anno game has been really successful. It is like a true time vampire. And the Anno team are doing a Rome-focused game. And that basically means that I am kind of screwed. This is, also, it's weird. Like, it's an Ubisoft that's also given the Prince of Persia license to an indie dev team, right? Which is kind of crazy. Yet, of course, the Ubisoft in people's heads is bloated games about climbing towers, unlocking maps in oversized worlds that just feel big for the sake of being big, of course, full of purchase opportunities for cosmetics and DLC season passes. The idea that you log into a single-player game and you have got a cash shop as if it's a live service game. People may be saying, where is that Prince of Persia remake? Where did that thing go? Splinter Cell, where is my Sam Fisher? And also, Beyond Good and Evil 2, how many decades will it take for you to actually make that? And of course, laughing at the likes of Skull and Bones. So I think for Ubisoft, the biggest obstacle to their success is, can they actually take the good parts of these games that do seem to have some audience cut through and actually sort of dispel the older Ubisoft notions? That's going to be their challenge. And that ultimately is the situation. With some of the resources, tools, and teams that they have, Ubisoft can make some sorts of games that other companies can't really make. The problem is they had a massive wave of delays. That meant that people just sort of forgot that they could do some of those good things, and they just made absolute goddamn fools out of themselves for years, right? All of the clout, trend chasing, live service games that would appear and then be killed. Ghost Recon Breakpoint. All of the stupid, tiresome things. And so with that in mind, and with me recording this video for you, knowing that a lot of people are just fundamentally still angry about Shadow, right? Angry about the Star Wars game, just thinking, whatever, Ubisoft slop. Ubislop derivative. I still, I look at the stealth gameplay, and that actually looks like it could be something that I enjoy. Same sort of goes for Star Wars, but ultimately what this is a lesson. It is a lesson that you need to take your brand image goddamn seriously. So basically, Ubisoft's problem here is, it seems that because these games have been delayed for years, that maybe some of those assumptions have actually been questioned, and some of the gameplay has moved forward. And the positioning of the games is perhaps a little bit better, with them focusing on having a really, really good 30-hour experience, perhaps instead of an Odyssey, where Odyssey, a little bit like with Dragon Age Inquisition, is one of those games that has the potential for bloat that really can just destroy the pacing of your gameplay experience. It seems that their teams, I should say, have tried to fix those things, but they still come up against the negative brand image that Ubisoft has amongst the enthusiast audience. And that's the bit that's interesting to me, because Assassin's Creed still sells well. Valhalla, amazingly financially successful. Mirage, also extremely financially successful. I'm just going to use the word normie here for shorthand, just like people who are not tuning into industry news and sort of shot-calling things like we do. They do still turn up and buy Ubisoft games, but there has been rot. We saw it with Far Cry 6. We've seen it a little bit with Assassin's Creed, but mostly in the older era of Assassin's Creed, wherever they were just putting out a new one every single year. And by the time of the third Ezio game, people were getting kind of tired of it. Then by the time of Syndicate, yeah, people were having issues, let's just say. So they have done this thing where, you know, in the enthusiast audience, they haven't been liked, but that hasn't really mattered because they have been able to get the sales from the non-enthusiast audience. But then they have ran some of their franchises into dangerous territory with the non-enthusiast audience by essentially shipping people slightly different versions of the exact same thing every single year. Here, though, it seems multi-year delays have actually led to them showing up with a better product. Again, though, cut through PR. I think it's going to take a long time for the enthusiast audience, and that means for those of us who are sort of industry onlookers, what will matter is the sales, and will these games have cut through with the broad audience? Will it be a Valhalla situation where people just lap that shit up? We'll have to see. That's it for today's video. So let me know what you're thinking, and I suppose my main takeaway is Anno game, Roman era. I'm excited. That's the one I'm probably going to play the most, by far. Anyway, I'll leave you with that. Take care, and I'll see you next time.